starting a garden? Avoid these common mistakes. Last year, millions of new gardeners watched their plants wither and die. Not from bad luck, but from 5 preventable errors. These simple fixes will transform your garden from a graveyard into a thriving paradise. Mistake number 5. Overwatering your plants. Picture this. You check on your tomatoes every morning, giving them what you think is extra love with daily watering, only to find them wilting despite all that moisture. More plants die from too much water than drought, and here's why this caring gesture becomes deadly. When soil stays constantly wet, plant roots can't breathe. Think of it like holding your breath underwater. Roots need oxygen pockets in the soil to function, but waterlogged conditions create an anaerobic environment where harmful bacteria and fungi thrive. These pathogens cause root rot, turning healthy white roots into black, mushy decay that can't absorb nutrients or support the plant above ground. Overwatering also creates the perfect breeding ground for fungal diseases like damping off, which kills seedlings overnight, and various leaf spots that spread rapidly in humid conditions. Beyond plant health, excessive watering wastes precious water resources and creates runoff that carries fertilizers and pesticides into waterways, harming aquatic ecosystems. Why do beginners fall into this trap? First, there's natural eagerness to nurture. New gardeners often equate more water with more care, not realizing plants prefer deep, infrequent drinks over constant sips. Second, poor soil drainage makes the problem worse. Heavy clay soils or containers without adequate drainage holes trap water, creating swampy conditions even with normal watering amounts. Here's your quick fix. Implement the finger test. Stick your finger 2 inches into the soil. If it feels moist, wait another day or 2 before watering. When you do water, give plants a thorough soaking until water runs from drainage holes. Then let the soil dry out before the next session. This encourages roots to grow deeper, seeking moisture and becoming more drought tolerant. Consider adding organic mulch around plants to retain moisture longer, reducing watering frequency. Straw, shredded leaves, or wood chips create a protective barrier that prevents rapid evaporation while keeping soil temperatures stable. For containers, ensure drainage holes aren't blocked, and consider adding a layer of gravel at the bottom. Drip irrigation or soaker hoses deliver water directly to root zones slowly, preventing both overwatering and underwatering. These systems maintain consistent soil moisture without creating the wet foliage conditions that encourage disease. Before, yellowing leaves, stunted growth, fungal problems, and that telltale musty smell of rotting roots. After, vibrant green foliage, steady growth, and plants that bounce back quickly from occasional dry spells. Mistake number 4, planting too close. Ever wonder why your vegetable garden looks more like a jungle than the neat rows you see in magazines? You're probably cramming plants together like passengers on a rush hour subway, and your garden is suffocating because of it. Overcrowding creates a domino effect of problems that can destroy an entire growing season. When plants compete for the same resources in too small a space, they become stressed and weak. Imagine trying to drink from a straw while 5 other people are doing the same thing. Nobody gets enough, and everyone suffers. Competition for sunlight forces plants to stretch upward desperately, creating tall, spindly stems that can't support heavy fruit or flowers. Meanwhile, roots tangle underground, fighting for nutrients and water in soil that simply can't support so many hungry mouths. This stress makes plants vulnerable to pests and diseases, which spread rapidly when foliage touches and air circulation drops to nothing. Beginners fall into this trap because baby plants look so tiny and innocent. That cute little tomato seedling seems perfectly happy next to its neighbor, but in 3 months, both will be massive plants trying to occupy the same square foot. Seed packets and plant tags list mature sizes for good reason, but many gardeners ignore these numbers thinking they can somehow cheat nature. Another reason is the desire for immediate fullness. Nobody wants a sparse-looking garden, so we plant everything close together to create instant abundance. This backfires spectacularly when plants start competing rather than complementing each other. Here's your quick fix. Respect the spacing guidelines ruthlessly. If a tomato needs 3 feet between plants, give it 3 feet, even if your garden looks empty at first. Trust the process. When seedlings emerge too close together, thin them early and often. It feels cruel to pull out healthy seedlings, but it's kinder than letting them all struggle together. Use companion planting strategically to maximize space without overcrowding. Plant quick-growing radishes between slower carrots, or let lettuce grow in the shade of taller peppers. These combinations work because they occupy different levels of the garden or mature at different times. Consider successive planting rather than cramming everything in at once. Plant lettuce every 2 weeks for continuous harvest, rather than planting a massive bed that bolts all at once. Before, a tangled mess of weak, diseased plants producing nothing. After, well-spaced, robust plants with room to breathe, heavy with healthy fruit and flowers. Drop a comment and tell me which mistakes you've made when you started your first garden, because I guarantee most of us have been there. Mistake number 3, ignoring your soil health. What if I told you that the difference between a thriving garden and a disappointing one isn't the seeds you buy or how often you water, but what's happening in the invisible world beneath your feet? Most gardeners obsess over what they can see while completely neglecting the foundation that makes everything else possible. Healthy soil is alive with billions of microorganisms, earthworms, and beneficial fungi that create a complex ecosystem. This underground community breaks down organic matter, makes nutrients available to plant roots, and improves soil structure so water drains properly while still retaining moisture. When you ignore soil health, you're essentially asking plants to thrive in a sterile wasteland. Poor soil structure is the silent killer. Compacted earth prevents roots from expanding and blocks water infiltration, leading to runoff and erosion. Clay soils become waterlogged swamps, while sandy soils drain too quickly, leaving plants constantly thirsty. Without organic matter, soil lacks the spongy texture that holds just the right amount of air and water that roots need to breathe and drink. Nutrient depletion happens faster than most people realize. Every time plants grow, they extract minerals from the soil. If you're not replenishing what's taken, you're mining your garden's fertility until nothing remains. Chemical fertilizers might provide a quick fix, but they don't rebuild soil structure or feed the beneficial organisms that create long-term health. Why do beginners skip soil preparation, time, and money? Testing soil and adding amendments feels like extra work when you're excited to start planting. Many people assume dirt is dirt, not realizing that soil quality varies dramatically, even within the same yard. Others use cheap fillers or skip amendments entirely, wondering why their expensive plants struggle despite perfect care above ground. Here's your quick fix. Get a soil test first. This tells you exactly what your soil needs rather than guessing. Add 2 to 3 inches of quality compost annually, working it gently into the top layer, or using no-dig methods where you layer organic matter on top and let nature incorporate it slowly. Use organic mulch year-round to feed soil organisms as it decomposes. Fallen leaves, grass clippings, and straw all break down into rich humus that improves soil structure naturally. Avoid walking on wet soil to prevent compaction, and consider raised beds if your native soil has serious drainage issues. Before, hard-packed earth where plants struggle to establish roots and growth stalls mysteriously. After, dark, crumbly soil that smells earthy and sweet, supporting vigorous plant growth with minimal intervention. Mistake number 2. Wrong sun exposure. You planted your tomatoes in that shady corner because it looked so peaceful and protected, but now they're stretching toward the sky like they're desperately reaching for something. Meanwhile, your lettuce is getting scorched in full sun, wilting despite constant watering. Sound familiar? Light mismatches kill more gardens than pests and diseases combined, yet this mistake is completely preventable with basic observation. Plants have evolved over millions of years to thrive in specific light conditions. When we ignore these requirements, we're essentially asking a fish to live on land. Shade-loving plants placed in full sun develop bleached, burned leaves and bolt to seed prematurely as they desperately try to escape stress. Their delicate tissues simply can't handle intense UV radiation and heat. Conversely, sun-loving plants in shade become leggy and weak as they stretch toward any available light source, producing pale, thin stems that can't support fruit or flowers. This stretching, called etiolation, happens because plants prioritize survival over productivity. Instead of developing strong stems and abundant foliage, they put all their energy into growing taller, hoping to reach better light. The result is weak plants that topple over and produce disappointing harvests. Most beginners make this mistake because they don't take time to observe their yard's unique light patterns. Morning sun differs drastically from afternoon sun. A spot that seems bright at 8 a.m. might be completely shaded by 2 p.m. when the sun moves behind trees or buildings. Seasonal changes also matter tremendously as deciduous trees leaf out and sun angles shift throughout the year. Here's your quick fix. Spend a week tracking sunlight in different areas of your garden. Check the same spots at 9 a.m., noon and 4 p.m., noting which areas receive full sun, partial sun or shade. Full sun means 6 or more hours of direct sunlight. Partial sun is 4 to 6 hours and shade is less than 4 hours. Match plants to their ideal conditions religiously. Read plant tags and seed packets carefully. When in doubt, choose varieties bred for your specific light conditions, rather than trying to force the wrong plant into the wrong place. Consider container gardening for flexibility. Pots can be moved throughout the season to follow optimal light conditions or escape extreme weather. Before, leggy, pale plants that never quite thrive despite your best efforts. After, robust, well-proportioned plants with deep green foliage and abundant flowers or fruit, perfectly matched to their environment. Mistake number 1, planting too early or too late. Your neighbor's garden is already bursting with tomatoes while yours are just now flowering, or maybe your seedlings got wiped out by that unexpected late frost everyone said wouldn't happen. Timing in gardening isn't just important, it's everything, and getting it wrong can cost you an entire growing season. Planting timing determines whether your garden thrives or merely survives. Plants are incredibly sensitive to temperature, daylight length, and seasonal cues that trigger different growth phases. When you plant outside their preferred window, you're fighting against millions of years of evolution that programmed them to respond to specific environmental signals. Early planting might seem like a head start, but cold-sensitive crops like tomatoes, peppers, and basil will sit in cold soil doing absolutely nothing. Even if they survive unexpected frost, the stress weakens their immune systems, making them vulnerable to diseases and pests throughout the season. Cold soil also prevents proper root development and nutrient uptake, creating stunted plants that never reach their potential. Late planting brings different problems. Cool season crops planted too late bolt to seed immediately when hot weather hits, while warm season crops planted late don't have enough time to mature before full frost arrives. You end up with lots of green tomatoes and immature squash instead of the abundant harvest you imagined. Why do beginners ignore timing? Enthusiasm, mostly. Spring fever hits hard after a long winter, and that first warm day feels like permission to plant everything. Others don't understand the difference between air temperature and soil temperature, or they assume that mild winters mean they can plant summer crops earlier. Many gardeners also don't know their hardiness zone or local frost dates, 2 pieces of information that should guide every planting decision. Without this knowledge, you're essentially gambling with your garden. Here's your quick fix. Learn your last spring frost date and first fall frost date, then count backwards from there to determine planting windows. Use a soil thermometer to check ground temperature before planting warm season crops. Most need soil temperatures above 60 degrees consistently. Start seeds indoors to get a jump on the season safely. This gives you transplant-ready seedlings right when outdoor conditions become favourable. Practice succession planting by sowing new crops every 2 to 3 weeks for continuous harvests, rather than one massive planting that all matures simultaneously. Before, frost-damaged seedlings, bolting lettuce, and green tomatoes at season's end. After, perfectly timed plantings that maximize your growing season and provide steady harvests from spring through fall. Every expert gardener has killed their share of plants, made these exact mistakes, and learned through trial and error. The difference is they didn't give up after the first failure. Ready to take your garden to the next level? Check out the video I'm showing you next for even more farm-changing tips. Remember, gardening is forgiving. Just learn and keep growing.
If you found value in this video, you're going to love this next one.